Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Cup of Coffee in the Neighborhood with Jennifer Richardson.
Morning.
So we have a couple different things to talk about this morning. One is going to be the big change in loan level price adjustments, which are LLPAs that are getting incorporated next week or in May. For those of you that aren't watching this currently, and kind of what does that mean? And then you kind of want.
I was like, I don't know what that means, Mark.
And you wanted me to kind of get into like kind of the differences between second homes and investment properties as well.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So a loan level price adjustment is essentially on conventional loans, it dictates the pricing of the loan. So a lot of people kind of differentiate your interest rate and pricing. They kind of separate them. But essentially in the mortgage business, you kind of call them both the same thing.
Okay.
So there's par pricing, meaning that, hey, you're getting this interest rate, and this is all hypothetical interest rates. You're getting this interest rate at 7% based on your loan file. Okay, and that 7% doesn't cost you anything. All right, and a loan level price adjustment would have been incorporated back into the pricing engine that we use, and the pricing engine maybe gave you a loan level price adjustment because you had an 800 credit score.
Okay.
So now you're getting that 7%, whereas somebody with a 650 credit score would have had to pay a point.
That makes sense. Okay.
So that's the loan level price adjustment. So it incorporates, it incorporates credit scores really heavy into that, and then obviously debt to income ratio and some other stuff like that, depending on everybody has a different kind of pricing engine and how they actually calculate that as far as risk goes. But essentially what's happening in the United States starting in the month of May is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are the big non-government entities that are the secondary market for conventional loans. They are changing their loan level price adjustments, and essentially what they're doing is if you have a good credit score, your loan level price adjustments will not be as good, and then if you have a lower credit score, your loan level price adjustments are actually going to get better. Okay. So essentially their thought process in this, and I honestly do not agree with it whatsoever, is that they want to incentivize people that have those lower credit scores that usually come from lower social economic classes in order to help them out to be first-time home buyers. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is my opinion, I think that their thought process behind that is, well, if you got an 800 credit score and, you have a really strong financial background or whatever else, you don't need the loan level price adjustments, which is, to me,
it's kind of punishing you for taking care of your credit.
It's like reverse socialism or something like that. And frankly, and my idea of this is it's differentiating people on the wrong measures. I understand giving somebody a helping hand or a hand up, right? But not a hand out. Yeah. But essentially that's what's going to happen. It's going to happen next week. And I fundamentally kind of disagree with it as wholeheartedly, but ultimately I'm not in charge of that. So it's outside of my control, but ultimately it should,
there's got to be another way.
It should be nice to win, right? The gold medal at the Olympics is the gold medal because you were the absolute best at what you did. And you can't tell me that the third place medal is as good as the gold medal. Yeah. Right. And that's essentially what they're doing. And it's to me, I think it incentivizes mediocrity. Mm-hmm. And fundamentally, that's not how our country was founded. Yeah. Our country was not founded on mediocrity. I mean, we're supposed to be, the city on the hill, the shining light for others to emulate and so on and so forth. And, if you're going to incentivize mediocrity, and I get it, and this too, I mean, everybody goes through financial constraints and everything else. But, I pretty much tell everybody that there is a 3-digit number associated to your ability to pay back your debts, and that's your credit score. And, I think you should incentivize people to pay their debts, not incentivize them to have low credit scores. You know what I mean?
For sure. And I mean, I definitely have some empathy for that, because I've had a crappy credit score before, just full disclosure, I did some stupid decisions in my 20s. But I think that, I see so many people that I'm dealing with that are working very, very hard to get their credit scores up so they can purchase a home. Mm-hmm. And, it's really unfair to those people too.
It's a goal.
Because it's you
have a goal. Yeah. And why not try to have a goal that you need to pursue?
I mean, I don't know, fantasy land, I'm not an economist, but it's why not just lower the interest rate a little bit? You know, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to get into that.
Talk to the Fed about that,
anyway.
and then we'll see.
Anyway,
I honestly think there's a lot of political stuff going on right now, and
there is.
Politics permeates all. People that think that politics don't, like, politics permeates all levels of society, and I think there's just a lot of political things that are permeated into the economy right now, unfortunately, and. I think there needs to be a little bit more of a separation in those things. And honestly, like, we're supposed to be a capitalistic society. At the end of the day, like, whoever has the most merit, whoever has the best product is supposed to win at the end of the day. And the more that you regulate and incentivize mediocrity, the more mediocre we're going to become.
That's true. So, so we talked about, the rates and how that affects that. Can you talk about second homes and vacation properties? Because that loan looks a little bit different from a conventional loan for primary residence, right?
Yep. So essentially the regulations state that you have to occupy a second home or vacation property for 14 days out of the year. Okay, so that is the difference between a investment property and a second home, is the fact that you never really occupy an investment property, whereas you do occupy a second home.
Can you occupy an investment property? So, like, I buy an Airbnb and I'm like, I want to spend some time in it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, technically, you're not, like, if it's an investment property, like, you're not supposed to. Like, it's supposed to strictly be for investment. I mean, obviously, nobody's going to be watching you 24/7, but that's the difference between a second home and investment property, is that you do occupy the second home. Can you rent out a second home? Yeah, you can rent it out when you're not there, and you Airbnb it, and so on and so forth. Obviously, if you get a year-long lease on a second home, then how are you occupying it as a vacation property at that point? And the difference as far as the structure goes is, the minimum is 10% down, depending on, I'm sure there's some other lenders that have different parameters or whatever else, but throughout most things, it's 10% down on a second home. And investment properties start at 15% down. The interest rate will vary depending on which lender you go to, but there used to be, before this administration, second homes were not as good as primary residence, but they were a lot better than investment properties. Now they're about equal with investment properties as far as the points go, because Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, they put, like, I think almost 5 points on top of a second home now, because essentially they're once again, penalizing people that can purchase second homes, and trying to they pretty much crushed the second home market over these last couple of years.
And do you feel like, it's got to be fair, I think, like, it's got to be more of a risk to have a second home financially, right? Because you're carrying that.
Well, at the end of the day, this is how, is my opinion again, how the lender thinks is, you're going to walk away from your vacation home a lot faster than you're going to walk away from your primary residence. So when I think about, how I explain why is this interest rate higher or whatever else, people are always going to walk away from an investment property and or a second home.
The non-necessities.
The non-necessities, right? Because fundamentally, people are always going to need shelter, food, and water. Right, so if you have those three things, everything else is then just a want, and then, like, that second home, for instance, could be a want. So that's why they, the risk of those is higher, and therefore, if the risk is higher, that means the interest rate and the points are higher. But for the most part, you're going to pay points for the most part on a second home as well, unless you're, the sweet spot is you put down 25%. Put down 25%, you get out of mortgage insurance, obviously, and then the interest rate is obviously more incentivized, because if you put 25% down on a home, you just put a lot of money in the game, and people don't like to walk away from money.
For sure, makes sense. And we're seeing so many second home. I see a lot of folks that purchase second homes this time of year, and especially investment properties. And a lot of these are really turnkey. They've already got rentals on the books, and those rentals still have to be honored. So folks are able to close on a property and then have instant income coming in, as opposed to having to start from scratch, which can take some time to get a little momentum going. So it's got a lot of options out there actually right now.
Yeah, you can do the same when it comes to a principal residence as well, right? So you can go into a principal residence that currently has a tenant in it. It's just that tenant has to get out after 60 days. So they have 60 days. So you have to occupy a primary residence within 60 days of closing.
I see.
So as long as on day 59 that tenant is out and the owner is occupying that primary residence as their primary residence within 60 days, technically, then that's fine.
I don't think I made that connection, so thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, we do it quite a bit. I mean, obviously VA doesn't like it all the time, but at the end of the day, as long as you can occupy it in 60 days, like you met the primary residence clause
Very cool.
of your closing documents.
Awesome.
So, that's a lot of, loan stuff, but, ultimately, unless you're paying cash for a house, you kind of need to know about the mortgage process as a whole. And I think the more that you know about the mortgage process, you can kind of start understanding how, pricing works, why you're paying this interest rate on everything else. For instance, why, a second home and investment properties interest rates are fundamentally probably going to be higher than, your primary residence because it's all based off of risk.
For sure. Cool. Good information.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And then as far as the neighborhood goes, I see that we have the
pool house is coming.
yes, it looks pretty big. So
it looks good.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I've got a lot of questions. I had a lot of DMs from people that have asked kind of like what we're doing to get the kids to school, because I know like a lot of kids go to school in the neighborhood. So I think that we've got some talks with the HOA, trying to get a plan for some additional sidewalk and
that makes sense. Like some sort of a cut through or something like that.
Absolutely.
And
so we'll keep you guys posted on that.
Yeah, and then what's going on with the back 40 over here?
Presumably they are building, so it's not Mungo. We don't know. It's a mystery.
Oh, okay, so it's not Mungo.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So presumably someone is planning to build. I've heard every single direction of information. So I'm just going to say, as of this week, I don't know.
So then I guess it's not necessarily going to be the same neighborhood. It might be a totally different neighborhood and HOA.
I don't know.
I guess we'll see.
I don't know this week.
So more to follow. We'll do some research on that,
today.
and we'll get back to y'all. But thank all y'all for joining us. All that y'all that leave comments and like our videos, we really greatly appreciate it. And if y'all have any questions that y'all want answered, just put a comment in there. Say, hey, next week if y'all could kind of address this, and we'll do our best to do so.
Yep, sounds good. Y'all have a great week.
Y'all have a great week. Till then, bye.